Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Jnanavarthini, FDP-based weekly knowledge session. Today, we are going to listen to Mr. Murugavel Muthu on the topic Zerotrust Framework, Decoding an Organization's Journey. Mr. Murugavel is a product leader with over 24 years of experience in developing and launching global products in networking and cybersecurity. He's a founder and CEO of CoastGrid Networks, a company that is transforming the way network services are delivered and managed in cloud-centric and IoT-enabled enterprises to bring superior network experience, reliability, simplicity, and automation. He holds a patent in software-defined WAN and IPs in IoT security and NDR. He has a successful track record in delivering software-defined WAN solutions across various verticals, including financial services, manufacturing, telecom, healthcare, retail, IT, and media. Welcome to FDPP and Jnanavarthini. We are looking forward to an informative session. Over to you.
Thanks, Manju and FDPPA for the introduction. I'd like to thank FDPPA for this opportunity, where, it's not about just sharing the knowledge, it's also about learning, the foundational knowledge on, whether it be cybersecurity or zero trust. So I think already I've been introduced well, just to add to that. So we are associated with, DSC, Data Security Council of India, IIT Kanpur. We also have been, we are one of the top 5 cybersecurity finalists in Cybersecurity Grand Challenge, and we are into that 5G security, where we have done the India's first 5G SD-WAN successfully interrupt, few months back. So, okay, getting to the agenda quickly. So this is going to be like a brief agenda for the next 45 minutes or so. Feel free to interrupt, and I want this to be interactive as much as possible. So this is a broad agenda today we have. There is attack history, there is attack possibility, that is all the organizations are encountering, and various, zero trust is a very widely discussed, pervasively. People are talking about deployment across organizations. Governments are talking about it across verticals. Zero trust is a trending technology. It is not just a technology; it's a framework where we have a lot of flavors of product. So it's all the more needed, to set the context of background of why we need zero trust. What is the use cases, how organization can approach in rolling out in their organization, what are the quick whatever checklist or aspects of it, principles of it, before they are embarking on zero trust journey. So this is the overall view. So before getting into, okay, I just, again, as I tell the context, right? Today, it's important to understand various vulnerabilities and attacks enterprises assets are facing, right? So one of them, which is very well known, credential theft and brute force attack, which is a well known, widely known thing. Poor password, I think that is kind of a little bit old now, right? The key thing that today it's everything is all about advanced sophisticated attacks like remote code execution. Okay, OWASP related vulnerability, because a lot of VPN gateways, VPN software comes with the web and related thing. I will talk about more on that. Another important thing, session hijack. Okay, there are a lot of use cases where the users logged in and then using them as a conduit, the session is hijacked, and then which moves into the data center or cloud. And then protocol vulnerabilities, attackers are able to leverage protocol vulnerabilities and supply chain risk to enter into the target organization's network. And again, DDoS attack, which is typically, for a government kind of a thing or critical infrastructure. DDoS attack, where, well-known assets or, companies, websites or whatever assets are attacked, DDoS attack. social engineering attacks, which is very widely reported in the context of VPN, even though there are a lot of organizations are going for MFA, multi-factor authentication. There is a sophisticated, video phishing, all those attacks are there. Okay, that is happening. I've been reported in the recent times. Another is integration vulnerabilities. Your current software is integrated with other thing like SAML integration or many more thing, right? So today again, as in the context of APT, you have a DNS rebinding, C2C attacks which are happening, which is and there are a lot of zero-day attacks with APT. So these are the very tough challenges organizations are facing. I wanted to quickly underscore these aspects of it. So today we took the recent data, how the things are getting, how the cyber threat landscape is across the world, right? So we took do quick query, and then we are seeing that the cyber attack frequency is increasing. Like as you could see, like here, 2016 frequency of ransomware attack is for every 40 seconds. In 5 years, it is increased to every 11 seconds, right? This is like some of the attacks that happened, across the globe, well-known, impactful attacks which happened in August alone, right? That underscores the level of cost associated with the cyber attacks. So I will not talk much about it. Okay, I mean, we all know that its importance about it, but like you want to give the context. Now, here, we're talking about the context of zero trust, right? Where a lot of people using secure remote access. Even a lot of vendors are trying to keep up with attacks, trying to control the remote RCE attack kind of a thing. But point is that a lot of, even today, even though the vendors are releasing patches to mitigate the vulnerabilities, right, its damage is done, right? So even now you can, a lot of firewalls across from big vendors, not only two vendors, I'm talking about all the leading vendors, right? It's still open. The back door is, if someone wants to attack them, it is possible even today, as on today. It's a choice, right? So see, these are all the things. Okay, so I will come back to that. We recently had cybersecurity attack from AIMS, which is related to segmentation, all of them, right? I will not talk more. Okay, so why it all happens? That's the context, right? Because the assets have a door that is internet facing. See, that's at the core root, there is a door which we can open for some reason through some techniques, right? The door is open, right? So what should we do? So that's the thing, right? Make it invisible. That's the best strategy, because today it's all about APTs, advanced persistent threats, and zero-day exploits, zero-day attacks and exploits, right? So the best strategy is, especially for your critical services, critical workloads, critical applications, to be invisible. That's the best strategy, right? So that's why we are saying that zero trust should make the services invisible, right? So it will be visible. This is the easiest thing to be done, okay? Because today a backdoor is possible, but with the backdoor, only limited damage can be done. With the backdoor, if you have a front door, the front door can be opened and unauthorized person may enter, right? So this is one of the critical, very interesting aspect of zero trust, which is ideally a lot of vendors are talking about zero trust. I think this is what should be one of the critical aspects which is much more easy to implement. So make the service invisible to unauthorized people, right? So obviously, how to make the how it is visible, identify whether it's authorized or unauthorized is another problem, right? But this is the low-hanging fruit, low-hanging, whatever measure that can be done. So that's where, everybody's moving to zero trust. I mean, US has completely doubled down on the implementation of zero trust across their Fed and recommending, whether the 5G networks or any other, all the IoT critical infrastructure, they have mandated that by 2025, 2024, 2025, all the networks should migrate to zero trust. Okay, so what is zero trust? I'll briefly touch upon that. One of the interesting aspects of zero trust is that we all know zero trust, verify, always verify, then allow, there is deperimeterization, microsegmentation, all of them. So one of the interesting aspect of zero trust is backed by a solid framework from NIST, in a National Institute of US NIST, and we have a Cloud Security Alliance, which is talking about SDP back in 2011, right? And then CISA, Center for Critical Infrastructure in USA, and even US Defense DoD, Department of Defense, right? So we have a lot of interesting frameworks, solid frameworks, which been blessed, and everybody's, because this is not a zero trust is a framework, it's a guiding principle. It's not a product per se. Of course, there are a lot of products are required to implement them, but it's a collection of latest technology. I would say a collection of latest technology built to seamlessly, integrated seamlessly to prevent any, ransomware attack, data breach. This is the overview of zero trust thing in short. And even there, we have, it should be applicable, it's widely deployable across various use cases. And some of the product architecture also, you have variants like software defined perimeter, a zero trust overlay network, identity aware proxy, PAM, and all of them. But few architectures dominate and provide the full security. So that's the thing, we'll talk about them. So now, because in zero trust, it's all about, as I told you, right, it's not about the technology, it's all about the process, the how things, the workflow, how we assess the risk assets. It's all about protecting the assets. So it's all boils down to the assets and then the infrastructure, right? So here are the 5 key pillars: identity, the device, which is like user device typically; network, which is the key in connecting the various endpoints and workloads, kind of workloads; application workloads. This is where the critical applications are hosted, or which can access the data, right? So this is the foundation of a simple framework of zero trust pillars, right? And then this is applicable for all the broadly, right? But in case of very sensitive data, sensitive verticals like defense or you can talk about financial or whatever, anything that. So here, which is again released by US Department of Defense, the data is at the center, right? And the zero trust framework, okay, along with all the network environment users, visibility analytics, all the aspects actually support in protecting the data and other infrastructure. So this is another aspect of it which provides visibility analytics. Especially, it's all important because in today's zero day attacks, continuous monitoring, visibility, governance are key. So these are the 2 different flavors or perspectives of zero trust. So now now a little bit so now again coming back to the framework point of view, it's again very simple. As I told you, right, it's not a completely new technology. It's a framework which assembles the latest best practices. For example, it integrates the identity management, which offers some multi-factor authentication. There is a public key infrastructure which automates the generation of certificates of endpoints; data access policy, which is about security policy of who can access which asset, whatever role-based acts, whatever various models, RBAC, ABAC, whatever, all of them are supported. it integrates with the threat intelligence and continuous and diagnostic monitoring. This is a very cornerstone architecture recommended by NIST, and across the industry, everybody is following up this as a acceptable and global, you can say, the framework which can follow, right? Again, so all these other aspects of the components work with the policy engine and policy administrator, and and they dynamically, it's all about, again, I mean, I don't want to talk about zero trust again, because there is a lot of overdose of zero trust already. It's all about, allow or deny with the granular access on the dynamic security context, right? So, the policy engine and policy administrator understands the overall business policy, security policy, and then understand what is the threat landscape, okay, and then understands what is the endpoints, and as well as the target, and then accordingly, makes the relevant decision through the policy enforcement point. Which we'll talk about how exactly it happens. So the various deployment models, which is again NIST has recommended, is that broadly it has recommended 4 different types of deployment model. One is a gateway agent gateway model, where the zero trust agent is deployed within the workload. For example, we have a critical workload application in cloud or data center, and it needs to be protected, and we can deploy a zero trust application within that particular workload itself as an extended program, and that program or application or daemon, whatever it could be, that will connect to the policy zero trust orchestrator, we call, right? Policy engine and policy admin is called zero trust orchestrator. They will talk to the gateway and then make the right decision and make the allow or no decision. In some cases, like enclave based deployment, which is widely used in software defined perimeter kind of model, or even it's available, it's a model, but like it's also possible currently with the current model where we have a cloud or data center, you have a lot of resources in the virtual private network, and we have this PEP in front of them like a gateway. So it's a kind of a gateway, but there is a slight difference actually, right? But a single gateway or connector, like which we were talking about here, can protect multiple resources in the back based on the policy. So, and again, you have a resource portal based deployment and device sandboxing and so on. So we'll talk about it now. I mean, just to get a flavor of another thing, Cloud Security Alliance is very popular in this in this space, which has defined SDP version 2 software defined perimeter specification, where it uses a architecture called single packet port knocking or single packet authorization. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so I will address that one actually. So you have, again, this is almost all the, if you look at all the architecture, they have some similarity. It's not like completely at odds with each other. It's all almost same with the minor differences, which I will shortly address. In short, that SDP is also a kind of is already covered under NIST architecture. SDP is focusing on particular use case in the cloud kind of a thing, right? I mean, so you have IoT use cases and so on, OT, all those things, right? I mean, so I will not talk about this. It is another thing, right? So the interesting aspects of CSA, which is, I think, this is the latest thing I just again went through for this one. So I think I'll not take much time. So it's very, very simple, like, understand the business objectives before rolling out, I guess, zero trust principle. Do not overcomplicate it, which means that zero trust is not a complex technology or product. Just that we need to understand what is required for each assets. Right? The whole idea is that understand the criticality of each asset, what needs to be protected. Okay, and if you look at it here, because today, if you look at the point number 5, it's inside out, not outside in, which means that today it's all about deperimeterization, right? There's no boundary. People are working work from home, assets are outside, kind of a thing. So it is not possible to build a perimeter and guide, I mean, because most of the attacks are happening, as you know, through insider attack, whether intentionally, unintentionally, right? So the whole idea is about, the focus is on DAS, which is like the data application service and so on, which I talk about it. Okay, so the key here is that we need to identify the critical assets, right? And what is the risk associated with that, and we should map who should access it, what time, and all the stuff. And then you also have to understand that breaches do happen, so we have to do a micro segment according to the flows and continuously monitor. Okay, and another important thing is that, again, we have to instill a zero trust culture, because that's the important thing, right? At the end of the day, as I told you, it's not about the, if you have a good product, but if you're misconfigured, not able to understand who needs to access and all the stuff, so it'll all falls apart. So this is the thing, quick thing. I mean, I will share these things, a very quick, handy set of tips, or guidelines to follow. So, okay, now coming back to all the technology, now coming back to the ROI, how zero trust is going to be of help. Okay, so if you look at like the slide here, we are talking about identity device network application, right? So it's all about, you talk about ZTA, right? Okay, but data is static, that's handled separately. Okay, but the other pillars, identity, device, network, application, workload, everything, they all work together to give that, to protect the data. So that's where the product called zero trust network access has become important. While zero trust architecture is all encompassing, the critical play here is ZTNA, zero trust network access, right? So that's what I want to highlight here. So today one of the popular use case of ZTNA is the secure remote access, which is done today by VPN. So here we try to see how a ZTNA can be effective compared to a VPN, right? So we have recently we have seen a lot of VPN vulnerabilities, and it's been getting phased out towards ZTNA. Now, if you take, I mean, I've given you a short, thing, which is whatever the framework, I think method you can say. Kipley's policy method is one of the method used in cyber security to map, to clearly define who should access what, how, and all the thing, right? I mean, that will give a fine granular access, right? So here we are comparing a ZTNA, okay, and VPN, right? Today, if you take VPN, with VPN, we only need to know, just a shared secret, or you can say have that pre-shared or digital certificate, just for identity, and some of course user and multi-factor authentication is also one of the thing. So it kind of does the who, but it is not effective in connecting with a granular. Put it simply, VPN doesn't offer a granular access, okay, compared to ZTNA. So VPN leaves a lot of hole, a lot of gaps, right? And each gaps multiplies itself to give a higher attack surface. So since ZTNA closes it, it's almost 90% offers 90% lower attack surface, right? So this is the whole thing. It's all about who, what, when of data application assets and services. So again, it's a quick, again, a quick context of how it is implemented. For example, users can be from branch office, from remote user or cloud or IoT, okay, another cloud or edge cloud, right? So they are all accessing applications in the cloud or another branch or whatever, right? So ZTNA sits in the middle. Okay, it's a more of a service typically, right? It's a service which is multi tenant or dedicated or whatever, right? So it is in the cloud based service typically, which verifies the device trust, device identity, user identity, geographical location, what time he can access. These are all things that can be defined by security policy, and then data access policy. So these other aspects which talked about it, they all work together and do a allow or deny kind of a role. So which kind of works well. So again, it's kind of a rephrased kind of a thing. So basically we are saying that compared to a regular product, current traditional method, ZTNA has multiple layer, right? And you can say 5 or 6 layers depending on the product or architecture. Here we are saying at least 5 layers are different layers, different, you can say, components. That's the beauty of it. It's not like sometimes if you have multiple layers in one component, it could be compromised. Here, the beauty of ZTNA is that the layers, protective layers, are spread across the source to destination, the cloud and everywhere, orchestrated and all things. So so which can protect both some typical use cases. It's a private access and accessing your own organization, accessing its own applications. Another is it also can help in protected access to the SaaS application. Like, for example, you have OneDrive access, Amazon S3 bucket, or all of them through a combination. So now, again, so now, some of the use cases like, granular remote access, zero trust access to OneDrive, which I talked about. Another interesting use case is secure infrastructure access and DevOps, multi-cloud ops, simple cloud workload protection, which I talked about, right? ZTNA provides make the workloads invisible. One need not go for a expensive protection mechanism like CWPP, like cloud workload protection with or sometimes with the VPN they need to go for a WAF, they have to go with IDS APS, and all of them, right? So it provides simple workload protection. Another important thing, it enables the compliance and forensics, right, which generates a lot of auditable access logs, and also enables industry compliance. Another interesting use case is that third-party contractor access, which is like, again, it's all another use case, but again, it's all about granular access possible. Outcomes which we all know is that it reduces the risk of data breach. It enables a streamlined policy creation because it's all automation or orchestration. The human errors are removed compared to whatever the traditional model. Improved user experience, which I talked about it. Again, which we all a little bit covered, like it provides some improved visibility and monitoring compared to existing VPN. So I will kind of this is a slide which talks about what is the problem with VPN and why we should go for a what is the use case, business case for ZTNA. Because today, if you look at VPN, there is a gateway dependency which is susceptible to DOS attack. There are a configuration thing. There is a backhauling. It provides a macro segmentation. There is higher attack surface. All of them are there, right? So here we have just again extension to what we have done is that we have tried to map how ZTNA not only about the whatever technical aspects, from outcome aspects, from a business ROI point of view, user experience point of view, how ZTNA scores very well in terms of business outcomes and technological risk reduction, and ease of operations. So now, yeah, I mean, now we are coming to the deployment and how the organization can start their ZTNA journey. I think we already talked about briefly about how the important is an organization needs to map DAS, data assets, which is like OT or a printer, whatever the assets, right? Like which is like a IoT kind of a thing, applications, services like it's like DNS, DHCP, or those kind of IAM, Active Directory. So these are the services, right? They have to identify what needs to be, what are all the aspects of DAS, and how much attack surface they have, like how much they're exposed and all. Okay, and now the next step is we need to map which user or endpoint need to talk to, or user endpoint, or it could be server. They need to talk to the the other devices, right? So we have to map the transaction, what they call dependency map. We have to define the dependency map based on the transaction flows, and then create a zero trust policy of and then monitor and continuously improve. So this is a continuous improvement, again, kind of a process. Now again, this is another thing. Now assuming we have decided to go for implement a ZTNA or ZTA, right? What are the various factors that we need to consider? One, today we have different flavors of different architecture. Some of them are agent based, some of them are agentless, some of them are gateway based, not gateway more in the sense like the agent runs within the target workload. In some of them, enclave means like it another is kind of a gateway model we call app connector kind of model. Another is how the traffic pattern flows. Is it a proxy based, or it uses relay, or is it direct? Sometimes obviously the best is direct peer-to-peer, because there is no intermediate node which is to decipher it, right? So protocol support, like some architecture lends itself to support only HTTP or RDP SSH kind of a thing. Some protocol category can support almost all the protocols. Another thing, this is another important thing, whether ZTNA can do only north south, or it can do east west also, which means that user to app, or it can do app to app as well. Obviously app to app also is a better option. So protocol technology, whether it's a TLS based, UDP based, so this is again another choice, or they may have some prior some parameter. Should we take any questions or something here, or shall I proceed?
We can take the questions at the end.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so again, this is a CISA, one of US Center for Critical Infrastructure Security Agency, security agency. They have defined, they understood that, and they have done a good job on this, to map how an organization, whether it be a government organization, Fed, what they call, or it could be a small business, or mid and large size, how they can start their journey and move towards an optimal infrastructure which is like resilient. So as we know, zero trust is all about assumes data breach. The key here is that through continuous monitoring, and they should have a mechanism to be resilient. So that's the assumption of zero. So how do we go to optimal path, right? So we start with the traditional, which you may have one organization may not have any security or minimal security, and then they'll go for initial CTNA deployment, and then further into advanced where it has got some thing, and then go to the optimal thing. Again, this maturity level, what they call zero trust maturity level, has been defined for each pillar. okay, whether it be identity or networks, right? I mean, or optimal, right? I mean, for example, for endpoint, we can combine all sorts of, EDR, XDR, and, all of them, they can work together with the AI, ML, and, they can, automatically, quarantine a particular endpoint or the workload. So that's optimal. The initial, it may be like, there is some alarm, it's kind of a little bit of manual kind of incident response, right? And then a limited governance, limited automation with visibility analytics, right? So this is a very, very, I would say, a very, very interesting read and a very good guidelines from CISA, and very, very simple language. I think we appreciate, we'll encourage the, CISO community to have a look at it. Yeah. So now coming to the implementation challenge, budget is a budget. I mean, obviously enterprise need to plan that one. Another thing, I mean, important thing is, I mean, these are all CISOs know how to handle it. Like, ZTNA is not expensive technology. It's today the budgets are a little bit flat, almost flat or reduction, which is understandable. But ZTNA is not an expensive technology. As I told you, it's a framework. Obviously, more effort is required from the team to understand and deploy. But otherwise, technology is not like pretty expensive. Okay, and then it's almost like this. Of course, various budget ranges are there depending on, and the core here is that, as I already indicated, it's all about the use case based. What is the risk appetite? What is the priorities? All of them come into picture, and we have a, as you know, this here the more and more conversions are happening between network teams and security teams with with the ZTNA, because you have identity, everything is coming through data, so more convergence, and the entire team, IT and security team, infosec teams should work together as a team to work towards that. Another, which is again it's a known thing, another interesting choice is that today a lot of vendors are talking about ZTNA, pure ZTNA. Okay, because it's less complex kind of a thing, right? But even the NIST talks about hybrid ZTNA. So ZTNA need not be ZTNA, zero trust or architecture or ZTNA can be applied for a greenfield or brownfield, right? Greenfield is obviously easy. Brownfield has got a lot of challenges because we have spoken to our own customers, a lot of customers, they like the technology, but they're already implemented the IPsec like VPNs, like IPsec VPN, OpenVPN. Customers are not, like your customer health, say for example, we take healthcare provider, the customers are using IPsec VPN. Now, if we go and say, okay, to customers, say you migrate to ZTNA, they will kind of resist, right? There is a lot of work to be done, right? At the same time, it opens up to a lot of ransomware attack, cyber attack kind of thing, right? So a hybrid approach can still work, which can improve the customer confidence also, like, okay, but at the same time, it doesn't disrupt the environment. Today, we see a gap in hybrid, ZTNA, ZTA, right? Because of complexity, kind of a thing, which I understand, but it's possible. Again, the organization should define the roadmap along the maturity model that will have better clarity on that, and then they have to just get started. How to get started? So this is the John Kinderberg is a ZTNA, is an author of ZTA. Some of us know. I also came to know him recently. So it's his thought that came up to become a zero trust architecture kind of a thing. So he himself is one of the recent interviews talks about, based on his own experience in deployments working with customers. He says that zero trust is incremental and protecting one attack surface at a time. Okay, so enterprises should not protect all surfaces simultaneously, because somewhere people will get burn down all the stuff. It can, it lead to the failure of the project. They should take an iterative approach. End of the day, so this is all like usually, right? It's all, again, he says about, it's all about boils down to the mission identities, because the point here is that, like, session hijacking can still happen. It's all about resiliency, like, continuous monitoring, and we need to really complete visibility and monitoring and threat detection is key for still there. And finally, okay, so that's the key thing. So the recommended thing is that there is a clear time zero trust journey. We can start with one use case, one attack, and one attack surface, and then start learning, practice, and then go one by one. It's as simple as that. So okay, I mean, again, just a quick migration checklist. Select low-hanging use case, identify key assets to be protected, and have a dependency mapping. Prepare a zero trust maturity model for implementation. And another thing is that evaluate. Sometimes we want to have a less reception. Check whether one needs a pure ZTNA or hybrid approach, kind of a thing. And also need to, again, another thing is that what kind of architecture, right, which I think kind of we need to add it, right? What kind of product ZT architecture and product architecture. So that also has to be, they have to evaluate based on the requirements. So the planning, the quick thing is, the planning is key here. A lot of groundwork has to be done, but the product per se is not complex. Implementation per se is not complex, but a lot of analysis and everything is done. So now I will just take quickly 5 to 10 minutes to show, I mean, our experience of how working with our product MicroZ Access, which we have launched recently, and we already have a couple of customers there, and a lot of we have got good traction across, even these good signups and some customers using globally. And so here we are using a architecture called zero trust overlay network kind of a thing, which is one of the, we see it's okay here. It provides a multi-fold input security, like as I told you, right? 5 layer of security. Here I will talk about anyway. I'll show that one. And it enables direct connectivity between the endpoint to the cloud workload. It supports universal protocol support. It also integrates well with the enterprise identity like SAML, OpenID, and all, right? And provides a flexible deployment model, which means that an agent can be installed within the workload, or there can be a kind of a gateway kind of model, which people call as an app connector model, right? And it's easy to set up. It's like it reduces the attack surface to 82%, 80 to 90%. It is very easy to set up. Once they understand, they can install within, like, actually end-to-end connectivity of a particular cloud resource to whatever the endpoint can be done within 10 minutes actually. Okay, understanding. So it reduces, it gives a full visibility of what traffic, who is connected, and a lot of other, visibility can be added, like, forensics, right? And then web application firewall to understand which APIs are like getting accessed. So all of them, some of them will fall into the concept of CASB or SASE kind of a thing. All right. So again, just a quick overview of our architecture, MicroZ architecture. It is based on NIST framework, right? I mean, I will not talk much about it because time is already up. I mean, so, but it can support wide variety of deployment use cases, whether it be branch officers, remote users, OT, I mean, IoT, OT, right? And integration with the third party identity providers and so on. So yeah, it supports all the leading identity provider, and integrated and certified actually, right? I mean, again, flexible deployment models, which I talked about. This is how it works actually. Okay, So now, okay. So this is how the dashboard looks. So people can see the dashboard which user have. We can define the security policy for each endpoint as well as the workload. Right. I mean, so so this is like an app that is installable in a desktop across Linux, Windows, Linux, Mac OS, as well as in a cloud, like cloud workloads, like which is predominantly Windows or Linux. Okay, so I'll just add some small demo here, so how it works. This is about a use case of connecting an endpoint to the cloud application, critical cloud application. So yeah, I mean, it'll take some time, so I'll skip it. So it's completely automated in terms of profile creation. The admin will have a complete security as well as ID admin will have a full control about who can access what. So yeah. Yeah, I think we are almost yeah, I think pretty much, I think we are almost done. I mean, I'm just to show whatever we have seen already shown. It's a rehash of it. So again, yeah, I mean, mitigates the risk of data breach, elevates staff productivity, reduces IT cost, ease of improves the operations and agility and all those stuff. So yeah, that's all. And just to showcase, we have a list of customers. I mean, we have customers across verticals from manufacturing and BFSI, media, IT companies, and retail, healthcare, and telecom, and so on. Some of the select list of customers here, and we have a lot of other customers also using it. Yeah, I think that's all from our side. Yeah. So we also recently launched the product in Product Hunt and got a very good reviews recently. So I mean, I'll keep you updated on that. Yeah, I think I'm done here. So thank you so much. Yeah, so I'll be happy to take Q&A.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Manju, your voice is breaking, not able to hear.
Presentation covering all aspects of CTA. We can take questions now. Murugavel, for a very well laid out presentation. Now we can take questions now.
Thank you, Manju. Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah, actually,
This
I
is
got
Balram.
I got one message on the chat, like Mahendra Limaye, he has mentioned that how many models, so many models suggested, how to choose single models based on the organization, what basic consideration. I think, yes, I mean, Zerotrust is, as I told you, it's not a simple product like a VPN. One needs to, because today the cybersecurity context and the environment has become more complicated. Attacks have become sophisticated. Hello? Can I continue?
Yeah,
Hello?
please continue. Please continue.
Yeah. So which means that a lot of some kind of preparatory work is required to assess what is the use case we want to start. It's all depends on the use case and what kind of architecture. So yes, it's not a simple question. But I think, I mean, if you look at two things I am telling you, the models almost, the architecturally, everything, all the frameworks talk about almost same. Okay, we may have different words or whatever, different way of putting across, right? From a product point of view, there are, say, broadly three or four architecture. Okay, so one needs to understand what works for their vertical, for their use cases, and then they can choose. That's all. I think, yeah, that's my answer.
Okay, understood. Any other questions?
Hi,
Hi.
Balram this side.
Hi,
Hi,
Balram.
hi. My questions to you, if you talk about the enterprise nowadays that people are dealing with, if you talk about zero trust network architectures, it's
Yeah.
a framework.
Yeah.
Now, in the market, for creating those frameworks, no one or the single partner and OEM is here to provide zero trust network architecture and fulfill 100% zero trust network architectures. So let's say one example.
Mhm.
So as I told you, for creating zero trust network architectures, we need to have multiple technology to be implemented, people, process, and technology. Everything's supposed to be implemented.
Yeah.
I will go one thing. So let us assume that you are staying in the multi-cloud environments, and then multi-cloud environments, one cloud, possibly big three, one cloud, Microsoft Azure you are using, and then you are having some kind of, IBM entity data center. So you have created orchestrations layer or managing the thing.
Yeah.
So one things we were discussing that, look out the cloud security posters management tool, check out the configurations management of the cloud from where there are multiple vulnerability is available due to the misconfiguration and it may exploit anytime.
Correct.
So
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
question is to you, so how do you deal with this kind of organizations where altogether we say that zero trust network architecture, where I am saying as per practical experience, there is a flow. Still, no one can guarantee 100% zero trust network architecture framework.
Absolutely. You're right. I mean, that's what I think. I mean, even if you even the NIST or CSA, whatever thing, right? And or you talk to any cyber security, leaders, practitioners, they will never say that even air gap is not secure. They will say, right? So all we are saying is that it is reducing the attack surface. Like the attackers are using various exploits on APT and C2C and also, sorry, right? I mean, also the whole idea is that now that attackers are becoming sophisticated and now that they have tools, they can easily attack today, right? So which means that you're closing the you're basically, what they're saying is that simply in ZTNA, you don't trust anyone, whether inside or outside kind of a thing. You reduce the blast, what they call says blast radius. That's what they're saying. You do the micro segmentation so that if some attack happens, if some attack happens on one workload, say for example, you take AIMS, recent attack, right? It spread across the various server forms, and then AIMS, I think, publicly stated it was not, the IT systems were not operational for 2 weeks. Okay.
No. So this cannot be example, because I don't believe that the most of the government organization is fully equipped with the required tools and technologies implemented to safeguard customer information.
Yeah, absolutely. You're correct. What I'm saying is that, like, zero trust as the first step limits two things. One, it gives the granular access control. Who can access what kind of a thing? And then, in spite of that, some attack happens. Then the attack is contained in a particular localized area before it is spreading. These are the two key things, key aspects of zero trust network access. Because I think a lot of attacks are either happening because of stolen, phishing attack or whatever, or exploit, because certain things are open in the internet, they enter it through back door or front door, and then they spread across. Now, what we are saying is that have additional check who is accessing, from where he is accessing, all those extra validation, security posture, all of them, and then you allow. And if still you allow, and then some attack happens, then it is limited to a particular segment. maybe
Thank you. I got it. Thank you very much. You are talking about the lateral movements, correct?
Yeah, lateral movements.
Thank you.
Thank
Good evening, Nabi sir.
Mr. Murugan, you have some question? You have raised your hand.
Hello, Murugavel. I'm sorry I could not be there for the entire this thing. I had to go out and come back.
No, perfectly fine. Please go ahead. I'm so Murugan.
I will listen to it in detail later.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Any other queries or
Any
something?
other question? Mr. Murugan, you have raised your hand. Would you like to ask any question?
I think that's why yeah.
If there are no further questions, I would request Mr. Ramesh Kotak for the closing remarks. There was one more question from Sriharsha. He was asking, how did you arrive at 90%?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question. Yeah, that's see 90. Okay, what we're saying. Okay, the way it's a ballpark number because we took it from other thing. It's all about the parameter, right? I mean, so if you have, say, I'll go through that probably, that particular slide where you have multiple parameter, like 7 parameter, right? So each parameter multiplies itself will become a big number. So broadly, not only generally in the industry, they're saying, basically attack surface, you give a weightage to each parameter, and if it's not additive, it's a multiplication. I don't have exact algorithm or whatever, but the way I think we arrived at, I'll go again, share the screen probably, that will give an idea. Once again, just a minute, I'll go there. I'll share my screen 1 minute. So we are talking about attack surface over VPN, right? So if you look at it, you have so many parameters, right? I mean, where, how kind of a thing. The way it works is that each parameter multiplies itself. It's like not additive. It's multiplies itself to have a larger attack surface, right? And if you look at ZTNA, it checks all the box. Of course, some, say for example, some may not have how. It's not 90 exactly, up to 90%, which is possible, right? Which is, I think, say some organization may not have deep packet inspection, then it will be lower. The percentage will be lower, right? But otherwise, even if you take in fact, a lot of even VPN doesn't have a device trust. So some parameter, for example, like, a lot of VPN doesn't have a device trust, which is very, very, would say today from I look at it's like kind of primitive, right? So if you look at VPN is kind of you have one shared secret key or certificate, the PK, or digital certificate, RSS certificate, one can connect right away in even today deployment. So it's a highly insecure. It could be even higher actually. So this is how we have right out 80 to 90%. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, Murugavel, yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, I think we are on the time. Murugavel, thanks for taking the session.
Thank you.
And I know that you and your team is working hard on this and even evangelizing Z10A with multiple customers as well. I think today's session you really walked through us through the fundamentals and then what makes as a Z10A. I think it's good to know the various parameters and the insights, how to arrive or how to choose a vendor for any solution. Thanks for you did not put your product in front and actually kind of did a great job in giving the insights how to pick a Z10A. Thanks for the session, and I think lots of informative about it. So maybe members will connect with you in case they have any questions or any queries. Hope that will be acceptable. Thank you for taking the session. I think from the FDPI side, me and the team, thank you for sharing the session today.
Thank you, Mr. Ramesh. Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity with the FDPPI. So it is a good learning for me also. Like, we are put together certain things to look at holistically. So it's a good opportunity for us to connect with you, the FDPPI community. We'll be in touch actually. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Bye.